Welcome to The Ambitious Introvert, the leading growth and development podcast for the estimated 56% of us who recharge by going inwards. Our purpose is to help you manage your social battery and own your energy so you can reach your true potential in your business, your career, or your life. I'm your host, Emma-Louise Parks, a former air traffic controller, entrepreneur, and a success coach with over 15 years experience. I've supported hundreds of introverts like you who dream big and are ready to take action towards making those dreams a reality without compromising their energy in the process. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing tips, tricks, and hacks on how to build your resilience, master your mindset, and cultivate self-leadership. Skills that will help you reach your goals without trying to be someone that you're not. We'll also be sharing valuable lessons and insights from our own personal experiences, all focused on one thing: helping you own your energy to reach your potential. I went back and forth with the title of this solo episode because I didn't know if it was too much of a gut punch, but I stuck with it because I don't believe that anyone listening who identifies as ambitious has never felt like they're failing. And the reason I don't believe this is because of something called the law of polarity. If you're into your energetics and law of attraction, you may be familiar with this. The law of polarity literally means that something can't exist without the opposite existing too. So left can't exist without right. Heat can't exist without cold. Up can't exist without down. And that all of these things are on a spectrum. And at the very ends of this spectrum are the complete opposites. And then as we come somewhere into the middle, there's a point where it changes, right? Left changes to right because it goes through a point of being straight ahead. And, up and down goes through a point of being on the horizon. So the law of polarity means that for something to exist, the opposite has to exist. And that, in fact, rather than being an opposite, it's just a different level or a variation of it. And this is important because if we are ambitious for success, it means that at the other end of that spectrum, there is probably what we would call or deem failure. And where we have this ambition and this positivity to get towards that success, whatever that is for us, we're also likely to have frustration, anger, annoyance at the lack of that success, as I say, which we might call the failure. So whether or not the language resonates with you, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard from clients, and I've been there myself as well, where they're in a place where they're like, nothing's working. It's not working. I'm not making progress. I'm failing. Everything I'm doing is wrong. I'm behind. That's so common. I'm behind. I'm so far behind. And this is the easiest way to drain your energy and get yourself into a really bad mindset space because you're constantly focusing on what you don't have and what isn't working. So what I've seen so often with clients is they are at, say, for argument's sake, day one of a plan. And there is this ultimate outcome of the plan, which we're going to call the success. Now, a lot of my clients have big plans to do big things. A lot of them have 5-year plans. A lot of them have career plans that span a long way into the future. And what tends to happen is they focus so much on reaching that ultimate place, that pinnacle, which may be years and years and years in the future. And that's when they'll feel like they've succeeded, that everything between day one and that is never good enough. And it's not working. And they're not making progress because they're measuring it against an outcome that is a long way away. So they never feel good. It's not working. They're failing. They feel behind. It's wrong. All of these things. So let's talk today about what to do when you feel like that, when you feel like you're failing, when you feel you're not making progress, when you feel behind, when you feel like you're putting all your energy out and you're doing all of the things and you're getting absolutely nothing back. the easiest way to stay energized and to stay in a positive mindset, which we want, because the more of a positive mindset you're in, the more you're likely to keep taking action rather than, convincing yourself that it's not working. We need to focus not on what's missing, not on what isn't there, but we need to focus on what is there and what has been achieved. And this is a concept called the gap versus the gain. And it was introduced by Dan Sullivan, who is one of the OG executive coaches. And this is something that I even used to create a welcome series for my private clients and talk about this as part of it before they even coached with me, to set them up in a way that was going to be the most nurturing environment for them to succeed. And by knowing this, I would literally record an audio and give it to them before. So we're not using the time on the course to talk about it. They know that this concept is powerful and they can start implementing it straight away. So when we think of the gap versus the gain, it's that space. It's that space in between day one or whatever day you're on and that ultimate outcome that you have defined as being successful. In that space, you can either focus on what's not there, or you can focus on all of the gains that stack up in that space while you are taking action. And I promise you, there will be many. So I'm going to give you some examples from actual clients of mine. Business owner looking to earn $100,000 a year, but refusing to celebrate anything up to that point because it doesn't count, in their words. So even when they are at 11 months into their financial year and they're at almost $90,000 whilst working part-time, they could not be happy and they couldn't celebrate. And they narrowly missed that 100,000 and they were distraught because they felt like a failure. Now, of course, part of this is because of the type of work they were doing. They were in a very toxic online space that's telling them that's success, and they really felt that they hadn't made it. But when we looked back, first of all, at how much they'd earned compared to their job where they worked full-time, they had to admit that there was an element of success there. And when we looked back over that year, everything that they had achieved that wasn't just financial, and everything that they had done that had put them in a position to be well placed to hit that goal the following year, which they did, and then some, of course, because of all the things they'd done. But at the time, they couldn't see those gains. And they were so focused on what wasn't there, and it made them really miserable. Now, another example I can give you is a consultant looking to get their first contract. And because they hadn't signed that first proposal, hadn't been accepted yet, they were ignoring all the great feedback they were getting. They were ignoring all of the calls that were being booked. They were ignoring the connections they were making. They were ignoring the presence that they were building, their network, because everything was on that first client. And in doing that, they were missing out on celebrating the things that they were achieving over this period of maybe 3 or 4 months that, again, were putting them in this great position to achieve more and more and more in the future. I see it a lot with professionals, especially in the earlier stages of their career. They will literally get frustrated that they're not in like a vice president role yet. And they will be ignoring great feedback, even pay rises, options to work with different teams, extra responsibility, all of these things, because they've got this ultimate vision and they see all of that and they go, well, yeah, but it's not this. It's not enough. It's not good enough. But in fact, it's those small things, and it's celebrating those small things, and it's consistently taking action and doing that, knowing that it will lead to that outcome, and learning to I don't love this phrase, but it's apt, love the process and enjoy the process on the way, is what's going to keep you going to get there. So I wanted to give you today 3 ways that you can flip the script when you do feel like you're failing, when you feel like things are going wrong, when you feel like you're not seeing the fruits of your labor, you don't feel like you're making progress. When we get into those stages, I want to give you 3 things to do that can help you turn it around. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend 3 things to make part of your development routine, your mindset practices anyway, so that when you do get into this stage, it's much easier to pull yourself out of it. Okay. And the first one is celebrate the small wins. I know a lot of you will have trouble with this because it feels a little bit indulgent, and your brain will go, well, that's not, what do you want to celebrate that for? That's not good enough. Oh, no. If you have your own business, would you celebrate a potential client booking a call with you? Many people wouldn't, because they'd say, well, I don't know if there's anything to celebrate yet, because I don't know if they're going to say yes and sign up as a client. And that's the wrong way of looking at it, because the small wins are all the things that are getting you closer to the thing you want. So you celebrate every aspect of it. So that is the first thing. Look for the small wins. Look for the things that are building stepping stones constantly towards the big thing that you want to achieve. Secondly, progress over perfection. And in this case, I would actually say define what progress is and focus on that rather than the outcome. Because when we use the outcome as a measure of success, like we said before, nothing is going to be good. You're never going to be happy until you reach that. But when we can look and say, this is how I'll know I've made progress, and whether that's, this is how I'll know I've made progress this week or this month, define what progress is, and then use that as your measure that you're on the right track. So it could be, if you are looking to grow your network, if you have reached out to 5 people this week, it doesn't matter whether they've responded or not. It doesn't matter if you've not actually communicated with them yet. Maybe they've accepted a request somewhere, but you haven't communicated. Don't look for the negatives, and don't be like, well, I sent that connection request because I want that person to connect me with this person and da-da-da-da-da. Like, no, the progress is that you've sent 5 connection requests or made 5 new connections this week. So you can celebrate that because you've made progress. Because if you do that every week, week in, week out, that is going to build exponentially over time. So think about what it is you're looking to achieve and think about what the progress is. If you're a business owner, it might be marketing. That's a struggle for a lot of people. But actually, if you consistently market 3 times a week, every week, and that's your progress, rather than you going, well, I haven't sold this yet, or no one's signed up for this yet. But if you know that you're consistently showing up and that's your progress, then that gives you something to celebrate, knowing that you're taking the right steps. And lastly, this one is super powerful. And this is the one that I recommend to my clients. My private clients have a channel within Slack, which we call Wins. And I have found again and again that the clients that can get comfortable with celebrating wins, that can drop in a couple of times a week with a list of things that have gone really well for them, are not only happier, but much more likely to achieve their goals. I've seen it over and over again because they are literally focusing on the gains and not the gap. So create a list of everything you've done and achieved. And I'm going to share some of mine with you as an example. I would say over 90 days, but if you can start it now and go back 90 days, brilliant. And if you can carve aside some time each week, each month, I would say probably each week so you don't forget them, to add things in as they happen, you will create a bank of goodness that you can refer back to when you feel like it's not working, it's failing, I'm not making progress. And you'll actually have tangible evidence in front of you that you are making progress. And just because you haven't seen the big thing in the external yet, you know that it's coming because look at all the action, look at all the aligned action that you're taking towards it. So I did this in mid-2020. I started to do this because I was in a period where I had changed my business to work with introverts. I was in a very crowded online space. I was very new to marketing, I had a very small audience. I was now talking to a different audience, so, a lot of changes. And I was very much like, it's not working, because I was expecting instant results, which of course is silly because that was never going to happen. But the frustrated part of me, the impatient part of me was like, it's not working. I'm failing. I'm not meant to be doing this. This isn't right. I'm not making progress. It's a waste of time. Everything I'm doing is wrong. Yada, yada, yada. I could go on. That was my mindset at that time. And I was a mindset coach because that's how the human brain is looking. It's looking for negativity and it's looking for danger. And we are not primed to be looking at how amazing everything is. It takes work to do that, which is why I'm giving you these tips. So I am going to read to you what I did in 90 days. I'm not even going to do all of it because you might get bored because it'll take so long. But to give you an idea, I was thinking, I've not really done anything, not really making progress. This is what I'd done. I'd gotten clear on my niche and my messaging. I had decided on my content pillars, written my web copy, designed and launched my website myself, got over my reluctance of social media and became active on it. I designed a product suite. I decided to launch this podcast. I purchased the equipment, signed the artwork, recorded the intro and outro, the trailer. I recorded 3 solo episodes, 4 guest episodes, and I had 7 guest recordings scheduled. I was a guest on 4 podcasts. I doubled my email list size. I booked 3 sales calls from 1 piece of content. I sold 3 intensives and raised the price. I opened my Facebook group. I ran a challenge. I started proceedings to trademark. I started a peer mastermind. I had a brand photo shoot. I made some really great connections through social media. I ran a 2-hour mindset workshop at an in-person retreat. I did a masterclass for a VA academy. I had a deeper understanding of my ideal client, the pain points that they faced. I was a guest on 2 more podcasts. I recorded 5 more podcast episodes. I planned the launch out for it. I'm just going to skip to the end because there was so much that I did in that 90 days, ending with hiring a VA and a podcast assistant. So in that, I did so much that was relevant and is still relevant today, but that was relevant to my business. And in my mind, I was selling intensives really easily at that point, but I hadn't signed a long-term client. And of course, the next month, I signed 2 on the same day. And then I signed another 2 the next month. And then about 2 months after that, I was fully booked because of these things. But I couldn't see them at the time. I was so much in the gap, so in the gap. And when I had all of this in front of me, I was just laughing at myself because I was like, I have done so much and it was all really aligned. It was all really intentional action that served me so well for many years to come and still does now. And that's why I wanted to share that, just to give you an example, because I'm guessing you probably listened and you were like, you did so much. Whereas at the time I was like, I haven't really done anything. I haven't made any progress. And that's why I wanted to share this with you today. So despite what your brain will tell you, despite how you will feel, you will never be failing. You will always be making progress. And the downside of being ambitious is that when we don't see the results, we do get impatient and frustrated. And that is part of the work, is understanding that about ourselves and learning how to balance it. So in summary, celebrate the small wins, look for the gains all the time and know that you are getting closer to the big thing. Look at the progress and decide what means progress to you rather than the outcome, and then use that as a measure of success. And I highly, highly recommend that you create your list of everything that you've achieved, whether it's 60 days, 90 days, do it as an ongoing thing. When you see that stacking up, when you see it growing, that will remind you that, of course, you're making progress. Of course, you're not failing, and that the very thing that you're after could be just around the corner. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this bite-sized solo episode was helpful to you. And remember to keep it in your back pocket ready for those times that you do start to doubt. but know that the success is always, always coming and you are always making progress. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling expanded to what's possible for you, motivated to take action, and inspired about how you can start to own your energy. I share even more tools and resources on my Introverts Only email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the Ambitious Introvert products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of introvert-friendly inspiration. Sign up now at theambitiousintrovert.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes. See you next week.